Years later, someone from the Western Vatican pointed a cross at Li Muhan and said, there is a demon inside him. You read it wrong, Li Muhan smiled slightly. There's more than one. Also, it's not just demons. At the age of 21, Li Muhan, who was left behind by his childhood sweetheart, never imagined that the beautiful girl he had taken in when he abandoned himself would make him enter the bureau a month later. Name Li Muhan. Belonging to a different category, devil, okay, go over there and test the level of disaster. Xia Yue, how is the relationship between vampires and demons? Not much. But you and I will always be together. Chapter 1. Unhealthy Girls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You are a good person, but you cannot give me what I need. We are destined to be different people from the same world, so Li Muhan, don't bother me anymore. Goodbye. The girl with an angelic face bowed to Li Muhan before getting into the passenger seat of a high-end sports car. The sports car flew away, leaving only Li Muhan, who was still holding 2 cones in a daze. Why was it suddenly dumped when everything was fine? Still using the most standard template. Squeezing the numbness, let's go, let's all go. I can have a double cone now. Li Muhan sat on a bench in the park, eating 2 cones at the same time, constantly recalling everything about Gu Ruoshi in his mind. He and Gu Ruoshi are childhood sweethearts, attending the same middle and high schools. The two officially established their relationship in their 3rd year of high school. For the sake of Gu Ruoshi, Li Muhan even studied hard and eventually got admitted to the same university as Gu Ruoshi. But just in the first month of college, Li Muhan deeply felt what his close friend said. Once he goes to college, both boys and girls will change. Because they broaden their horizons, they will see many things they have never seen before, and their hearts will also accept countless shocks and temptations. Li Muhan didn't believe it, he felt that Gu Ruoshi must have had some ulterior motives before breaking up with him. Wait, will this make me look too humble? Can we discuss it? I wanted to save her for other reasons. Okay. Li Muhan considered that Gu Ruoshi's parents were also his adoptive parents, so in the future, he should not let this relationship become too strained. So I think at least the lover can't become a friend anymore. It's still like licking a dog. Li Muhan committed suicide due to excessive sadness, and the entire drama came to an end. Sorry, Dad, let's just go for the second version. So in the past few months, Li Muhan has been trying to salvage this relationship, or in other words, friendship, family ties, and even gritted his teeth and bought a bracelet for 2,000 yuan. This is already a considerable expense for Li Muhan, who works hard and studies. Until today, he witnessed with his own eyes that Gu Ruoshi had sat on the seat and the future she wanted was far away from him. It was then that he realized that the bracelet in his hand was far from what Gu Ruoshi wanted. Dragging his tired body, Li Muhan returned to the rental house. He, who was studying alone at a university in another city, decided to rent this house in order to live with Gu Ruoshi, but Gu Ruoshi only stayed here for a week. At some point, she had already moved all her luggage away, leaving only an empty room. For a moment, Li Muhan felt like he had lost everything. Ding 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 ding, the phone rings. Li Muhan, Xiao Wang from tonight's shift has something to attend to. Can you take over his shift? He is the owner of a 24-hour supermarket where Li Muhan works. Although love is gone, life still needs to continue and we have to pay rent next week. Li Muhan's parents died very early, and he also cut off contact with other relatives. So there is no such thing as seeking help from family members. Although Gu Ruoshi's parents are his adoptive parents, others have already provided him with funds to go to college, so it would be a bit shameless to ask for money again. I went to wash my face and Li Muhan went to the supermarket. Fortunately, there weren't many people in the supermarket that night, and no one noticed that he was almost always in a dazed state. At 5 o'clock in the morning, Li Muhan, who came out of the supermarket, noticed that it was raining in the sky. He propped up his umbrella and dragged his tired body towards home. While passing by a park not far from home, Li Muhan suddenly noticed a girl sitting on the park swing without an umbrella. Xia Yue. Li Muhan knew about this young girl. She was considered a celebrity in her university and was also a freshman, but she was famous for her aloof personality towards everyone, as well as her perfect and impeccable appearance. Even for freshmen of the same age, everyone keeps a distance from Xia Yue. There are also rumors that Xia Yue is actually a delinquent girl who has been involved in smoking, drinking, and fighting. This has led to more and more negative news about her. Even people like Li Muhan who don't pay much attention to school gossip often hear her name. Li Muhan looked at Xia Yue sitting on the swing in the rain, lost in thought for a moment, and finally gathered the courage to walk to her side. Are you Xia Yue? Under the pouring rain, the lonely figure of the young girl appeared extremely small, and her once beautiful black hair now appeared somewhat dim and lifeless. It wasn't until the umbrella in Li Muhan's hand sheltered her from the wind and rain that she slowly lifted her head. The girl looked at Li Muhan with a puzzled expression on her face. Her hair was dampened by the rain, and water stains dripped down her face. Her hooded sweater, checkered skirt, and black stockings wrapped around her legs were all soaked by the rain. If it goes on like this, you should catch a cold, Li Muhan thought to himself. You'll catch a cold if it goes on like this. It's none of your business. Xia Yue's voice sounds very weak, perhaps because the rain is too loud. Li Muhan feels that if he comes late again, the girl may be completely engulfed by the rainstorm. The other party has clearly stated that they don't need you to meddle in their affairs. But when Li Muhan looked at the petite figure, he remembered that he had been alone in the rainstorm and suffered everything silently. What were your thoughts at that time? I want to be helped and noticed by others. I'll take you home. So Li Muhan still spoke up. He observed Xia Yue's clothes. The hoodie, which had been completely soaked by the rain, looked a bit worn out, the wrinkles on the skirt were also very obvious, and the stockings were even torn a few times. It looks like I haven't changed clothes for several days. Xia Yue held the swing rope in both hands and looked straight ahead, speaking to herself. I don't have. What? Li Muhan didn't hear what she was saying and leaned closer. I don't have a home. Ah. Are you also an orphan? Li Muhan felt like he had said something very foolish. Sure enough, Xia Yue stopped speaking and just lightly closed her lips, which were trembling with the cold. Hurry up and leave. A voice urged Li Muhan in his mind. This girl is a delinquent girl who doesn't go home and fools around outside at night. Don't get involved with her. Indeed, Xia Yue's reputation is very bad in school, and there are even rumors that she will take boys home at night, and she will stay in the park even if she doesn't go home during these times. There must be some hidden truth behind it, and the best way is to leave quickly and not cause trouble. But the speed of thinking in the brain cannot match that of one's own mouth. Before Li Muhan's brain issued a command, his mouth opened first. By the way, do you want to come to my house? My house is quite big. Xia Yue's iceberg-like face also showed a hint of confusion at this moment. Even Li Muhan himself did not expect to say such words. It's not good for you to stay here all this time, and it's so late. There may be bad people nearby, at least you can take a shower at my house first. Lying trough. Li Muhan really wanted to slap himself, but the more he said it, the more chaotic it became. He even talked about intimate matters like taking a shower. Xia Yue stared at Li Muhan's face like this, and after a long time, there was a slight change in her expression. Is that okay? Her tone was mixed with a hint of unwillingness and sadness. Li Muhan did not see the rumored bitches and delinquent girls in these eyes, only a poor girl who wanted to grab the last straw. As long as you don't mind, of course you can. Thank you. So, Li Muhan and the girl, holding the same umbrella, returned to the slightly narrow rental room in the rain. Chapter 2. This beautiful girl is not simple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone should have fantasies about living with beautiful girls. In fact, Li Muhan should have already realized it. Although it was only a short week, they did nothing this week. That's right, Li Muhan and his ex-girlfriend Gu Ruoshi went from childhood sweetheart to dating, but their physical relationship is still only in the stage of kissing. At this moment, he sat in the living room, listening to the sound of water coming from the bathroom, and looking at the pile of teenage clothes in the laundry basket outside the bathroom. Li Muhan fell into contemplation. I completely gave up on my ex-girlfriend today. Why did I bring another girl home tonight? What am I doing? Li Muhan covered his forehead, and at this moment he seemed to truly realize how irrational he had done. What if it's a fairy dance? If Xia Yue is indeed a promiscuous girl with a chaotic private life, as rumored, then it is not surprising to do such a thing as fairy jumping. Are there already several strong men guarding outside the door ready to rush in at any time? At this moment, the sound of water in the bathroom stopped, followed by a rustling sound, and finally the bathroom door was opened. The girl with slightly damp hair leaned out slightly. Thank you for lending me the bathroom to take a shower, and she walked out wearing a wide T-shirt and a pair of denim shorts. Thank you for your clothes. Li Muhan looked at Xia Yue, who had just taken a shower, and his heart couldn't help but accelerate. His slightly moist black long hair was draped over the delicate and fair shoulders of the young girl. In addition, the slightly rosy cheeks just after taking a shower, as well as the slightly shoulder-exposed collar due to being too loose, all of these made Li Muhan feel an incredible atmosphere. Did I say the wrong thing? Seeing Li Muhan staring at her all the time, Xia Yue tilted her head slightly and asked in confusion. No, I'll return your old clothes to you after I wash them. If your socks are torn, I'll throw them away for you. Li Muhan quickly turned his head and dared not go to see Xia Yue again. Why was it that I was so nervous when I got along so naturally with Gu Ruoshi and changed to a girl who had nothing to do with me? Dong dong dong, he can even hear his own heartbeat. Xia Yue lowered her head, looked at her body, and then looked around the room. Finally, she slowly walked up to Li Muhan and said to him as if she had made up her mind. I understand what you mean now. Li Muhan didn't understand what the other party understood. Just as he looked up, he suddenly realized that Xia Yue had already stood in front of him. The petite and thin figure of the young girl stood in front of him, with the water stains between her hair tips still dripping onto his pants. In return, I will make you do what you want to do. Li Muhan was stunned. His brain was like a computer crash, unable to give him commands for half a day, so Li Muhan could only stare at the girl in front of him in astonishment. Generally, when a boy takes a girl home at night, he would want to do such a thing, let alone a homeless and financially poor girl like me. Only this body can repay you. As she spoke, the girl slowly placed her hand behind her and turned her head to one side, seeming a bit shy about what she had just said. Oh my God, does she know what she's talking about? Li Muhan was secretly surprised in his heart. Although he did have that kind of thought for a moment, he just broke up. How could he have the heart to do those things at such a time? And it's still taking advantage of someone's danger. Li Muhan raised his hand, wanting to push Xia Yue away or pull her aside and sit down, so that he could escape. However, as soon as he lifted his hand, he noticed that the girl trembled nervously. Wait a minute. The girl's voice trembled as she spoke. I have one more thing to tell you. If you can accept it, then please do it yourself. Li Muhan wanted to say that she didn't mean it, but before she spoke, the girl let out a slight sigh, and then her eyes became cold as frost. She looked down at Li Muhan sitting on the sofa. Suddenly, the lights inside the room began to flicker, and everything became flickering. Is the circuit unstable? I shouldn't have turned on any high-power appliances myself. Li Muhan looked at the chandelier above his head in confusion. Wow, everything fell into darkness. It takes some time for a person's eyes to adapt to darkness, and before that, hearing becomes exceptionally sensitive. Li Muhan seemed to hear some sound. A rustling sound, the sound of something unfolding. Sleeping trough, Sadako. You might as well be a fairy jumping. As you can see, I am not human. As the girl's voice appeared in front of her, there were a pair of pupils emitting a deep red glow. At this moment, Li Muhan's eyes also adapted to the darkness, and he completely saw the young girl standing in front of him. No, that's not a girl. The originally slender and petite girl had already grown a pair of broken wings like demons behind her, and her face was still beautiful, but with a hint of evil charm added. The slightly opened mouth revealed two sharp canine teeth, and what was even more shocking was that the black hair had now turned snow-white. Li Muhan opened his mouth wide, and a cold sweat oozed from his forehead. This yes. Devil. Li Muhan's words have become somewhat incoherent. Seeing Li Muhan's appearance, Xia Yue slightly closed her eyes. When the bright red was covered by her eyelids, the light above her head also lit up, and the wings behind the girl disappeared. She also returned to the state she had just taken a shower before. Almost, I am what you humans call a vampire. If you are not afraid, I can use my body as a reward. After all, besides my body, I have nothing left. Of course, you can rest assured that I will never resist or harm you. Li Muhan swallowed a mouthful of saliva, as if still immersed in the shock just now. If you don't want to, then I'll leave immediately. The girl looked at the white T-shirt on her body as she spoke. The clothes. I'll find a way to wash them clean and send them back to you. Seeing Li Muhan still staring on the sofa, a hint of disappointment flashed in her eyes. When Li Muhan regained consciousness, she had already walked to the door. Wait a moment. Li Muhan stood up from the sofa. Xia Yue slowly turned her head and looked at Li Muhan, her eyes regaining the despair and desolation she had seen before in the park. Li Muhan didn't know what he was going to say. Was the other party a vampire or a monster? But she doesn't seem to have any intention of hurting herself. When I came back, I bought breakfast. Would you like to eat together? Finally, Li Muhan pointed to the soybean milk deep-fried dough sticks on the table. This time it was Xia Yu's turn to be surprised. She looked at Li Muhan incredulously and asked in confusion. After knowing that I am not a human, would you still want me to eat with you? Didn't you say you're homeless? It's still raining outside. Anyway, the education I received won't allow me to kick a homeless girl out of the house. Anyway, let's have breakfast together first. He scratched his head, as if he didn't understand what he was saying. Thank you. Xia Yu's eyes slightly turned red, as if Li Muhan was her life-saving benefactor. Li Muhan sits across the table, watching Xia Yue bite deep-fried dough sticks. Delicious. She muttered to herself and then took a big bite to eat. Not really, not really. Sister, this deep-fried dough sticks has a very high amount of aluminum residue. Don't eat too much. You humans always like to eat some junk food. The two pointed tiger teeth in the girl's mouth were faintly visible, as if reminding Li Muhan that what he had just seen was not an illusion. It's really strange. Li Muhan said. Hey. What's so strange? The girl looked up at Li Muhan while chewing her food and asked. Do vampires also eat human food? It seems that she expected Li Muhan to ask this question. Xia Yue replied calmly. Human food can provide us with the most basic energy, but as you know, if we want to survive in the long term, human blood is essential. Hearing her words, Li Muhan's hand shook suddenly as he held the soybean milk cup. As if to see Li Muhan's fear, the girl held her chin with her hand and gently bit deep-fried dough sticks, saying to Li Muhan with a little flirtation in her eyes. Don't worry, if you don't voluntarily, I won't suck your blood. If you suck blood, will you become a vampire? The question suddenly asked by Li Muhan actually stunned the girl. She seemed to be thinking and then answered. If I am willing, it is indeed possible, but it would be too troublesome. Increasing the number of vampires at will is not allowed by humans, and adding relatives also requires a very special condition. What conditions? Li Muhan asked. Xia Yue's expression was a little embarrassed. She sipped soybean milk, and finally couldn't bear Li Muhan's thirsty eyes. We must integrate our body and mind. I see. Wait, is this setting a bit familiar? So don't worry, I won't suck your blood, nor will I turn you into a dependent. If you want, I can let you suck blood. Pa da da, deep. Fried dough sticks falls on the table, and Xia Yue looks at Li Muhan strangely. What are you saying? I'm a bit curious about the experience of being vampired. It has to be said that Li Muhan has some elements of self-abandonment at this time. He was abandoned by his childhood sweetheart with such a realistic excuse. It is impossible to be open-minded and open-minded about this matter. At least not in the short term. Another reason is that he is tired. He has lived in a hellish orphanage since childhood. Every day, I have to fight my peers for a small amount of food, and the deans and teachers here are like the embodiment of demons. They impose the strictest physical punishment on their children, withhold donations from the government and caring individuals from the outside world, and even demand that children bow down to them. If a person stays in darkness forever, they will not crave light. Originally, Guruashi was the first ray of dawn that Li Muhan saw in this world. However, this light dissipated too quickly, to the extent that Li Muhan now feels a darkness in his life. Is it a novel experience to be killed by a vampire? Suddenly, Li Muhan noticed that the vampire girl across from him was blushing with embarrassment, and he knew that what he had said had caused a misunderstanding. It's just pure bloodsucking, not about making you make me your relative. Sorry, I didn't speak clearly. After speaking, Li Muhan showed a bitter smile. Even if it's just asking vampires to suck blood, it's still a very crazy thing. Xia Yue stared into Li Muhan's eyes, seeming to see the same despair and emptiness as before. Shwa, the next second, the girl appeared in front of Li Muhan. She stood beside Li Muhan and lifted his cheek with her hand. His eyes emitted a crimson glow, his face wore a crazy and seductive smile, and his two sharp teeth shimmered with a chilling glow. You're really interesting. Not only did you bring people you didn't know home, but you didn't ask for anything in return. Even after learning that I was a vampire, you voluntarily asked me to suck your blood. You are truly the most interesting human I have ever encountered. Speaking, the pair of sharp teeth penetrated Li Muhan's neck. Li Muhan is ready to face the bone-cutting pain, but there is no pain. Not only was there no pain, but there was also a feeling of warmth all over him. He began to feel tired, his eyelids began to fight, and his body collapsed weakly forward. The girl held Li Muhan's body in her arms and greedily sucked on his blood. Your blood is very special. Why does it make me feel so excited? Wait. Inside your body. Li Muhan felt that he had been pinned to the bed by the girl, and he had no strength to resist, so he could only let the girl wrap around his body. I'm sorry. I'm a bit out of control. Upon hearing this last sentence, Li Muhan completely lost consciousness. Chapter 3. The Past Radiance. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ding 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 ding, the sound of the alarm woke up Li Muhan. He slowly opened his eyes. This sleep was very comfortable, and it can be said that it was the most peaceful sleep he has had since losing his parents. He sat up and looked at the time. It's 6 p.m. now. Did you sleep directly from 7 a.m. until now? Generally speaking, sleeping for so long may cause dizziness, but now Li Muhan feels very clear-headed and his whole body is relaxed. I picked up my phone and looked around. only to find that my ex-girlfriend Gu Ruoshi had posted 2 messages on her social media. Forgetting to cancel the special concern is unlucky. Li Muhan sighed. He didn't originally plan to see what Gu Ruoshi posted, but driven by curiosity, he still opened Gu Ruoshi's social circle. Last night was the first time in my life that I attended a cocktail party and also the first time I wore such an expensive evening gown. This will be the most unforgettable day for me. The accompanying picture shows Gu Ruoshi standing at a grand banquet in a luxurious water blue evening gown. She has a graceful figure, and her hairstyle has been carefully decorated. Gu Ruoshi, holding a tall wine glass in his hand, followed a handsome and tall man, appearing slightly green but still so beautiful and moving. Li Muhan knew that this was the other world that Gu Ruoshi had told her. Just the dress on her body, no, the decorations embedded in that dress, are not something she can afford. The winter night sky doesn't have such a brilliant Milky Way, but if I could get closer to the sky, it seems like I could also catch the moon. The second picture shows Gu Ruoshi cuddling with the handsome and tall man in the open-air environment on the highest floor of a luxurious restaurant, admiring the moon. It seems that that man is the key to taking her to another world. Li Muhan was a bit unwilling. He thought he had let go, but after seeing this 30 years in Hedong and 30 years in Heshi. Don't deceive young people into poverty. A commotion came from beside Li Muhan, who was startled. Looking back, the black-haired girl was lying beside her. She opened her sleepy eyes and lazily looked at her phone. Is this your girlfriend? Ah. Li Muhan was startled and almost jumped out of bed. You, how could you be here? And why aren't you wearing clothes? Li Muhan looked at Xia Yue, who was half protruding from the blanket and rubbing her eyes, and said. There is only one bed in your room, so I can only sleep with you. The girl yawned and clearly didn't wake up. Li Muhan tried hard to recall last night's incident. He picked up a vampire girl and went home last night, and even asked her to suck his own blood. What will happen afterwards? I have no impression at all. I only remember that Xia Yue seemed to have bitten my neck. I have already fulfilled your wish for you. Even if you regret it now, it won't be too late. Li Muhan was about to answer when he suddenly noticed that Xia Yue's loose T-shirt had slipped off her shoulder after she sat up, and just a little further down could reveal the girl's chest. Li Muhan quickly turned his head and dared not look. You put on your clothes first. Li Muhan stood outside the bedroom door waiting for the girl to dress up and come out before daring to continue discussing this topic. That is to say, being sucked does not mean you will die. Li Muhan looked at Xia Yue across the table and asked. The advanced blood race does not rely on human blood for survival, blood sucking is just to maintain power. Don't worry, it's quite comfortable to be sucked by vampires. Li Muhan recalled the feeling from last night. Apart from the warm feeling of being sucked, he also felt another feeling in his sleep. That is a comfort he has never experienced before. Pup, but when Xia Yue heard Li Muhan say these words, she sprayed out all the water she had just swallowed. Sleeping slut. Li Muhan was so scared that he quickly went to get her a towel. Why are you so responsive? Xia Yue grabbed the towel and grabbed Li Muhan's hand. What's so comfortable about it? You're trembling. Don't mention last night again. Her tone was not serious, but rather with a hint of pleading. Please. Don't mention it. Li Muhan was slightly taken aback, but still nodded. Can I take another shower? Xia Yue suddenly blushed and asked Li Muhan, saying that the water she had just sprayed had soaked her clothes. Wash whatever you want, and I will prepare the clothes for you when you change. Thank you. Just as Xia Yue was taking a shower and considering whether to order takeout or make a meal, the doorbell suddenly rang. Here we go. Li Muhan walked to the door and opened it. When the door opened and he saw someone coming, Li Muhan was stunned. Because it was none other than Li Muhan's ex-girlfriend Gu Ruoshi standing at the door. In fact, at the moment of opening the door, Li Muhan did not recognize that the person in front of him was Gu Ruoshi. Because she looks completely different now from before. The ponytail has been replaced with a carefully designed hairstyle. The originally cute and playful clothes and jeans have now become a luxurious long dress that Li Muhan can tell at a glance that the price is not cheap. And those gentle and agile eyes gave Li Muhan hope for progress more than once. At this moment it was like being covered with a thin layer of frost, and looking at Li Muhan was like looking at an unrelated passerby. That kind of arrogance and coldness was Gu Ruoshi, whom Li Muhan had never seen before. I have something to do with you. Her tone was plain and devoid of any emotional color. After being stunned for a moment, Li Muhan nodded. Look, this unconventional plot is here. Li Muhan turned his head and looked at the empty room, pointing at Gu Ruoshi and saying. Gu Ruoshi ignored Li Muhan and just stared at the young man in front of him with cold eyes, filled with disdain. Exactly, you've already arrived. There were some things you didn't clean up last time, so I packed them for you and you can take them with you. Just throw away those things, I can't use them anymore. Just throw it away. Li Muhan was a bit confused. Those were their memories from the past, and most of the clothes and accessories inside were gifts he gave to Gu Ruoshi. Now in her eyes, it has become something that can be abandoned at will. Ignoring Li Muhan, Gu Ruoshi walked straight into the room and sneered disdainfully as her gaze turned towards the dining table. Is there any problem? Li Muhan closed the door and turned around to meet Gu Ruoshi's disdainful face. Li Muhan, we are all adults now, not children anymore. I know you love me, but it's impossible for us. Gu Ruoshi's sudden words left Li Muhan puzzled. This woman came specifically at night to say these things to herself. I've told you before, don't have any expectations of me anymore. You're a smart person, Li Muhan. Don't focus on impossible things. What are you talking about? Li Muhan frowned slightly. Gu Ruoshi walked to the dining table, picked up a cup, and then turned to look at Li Muhan with a smile. This is my cup, right? You still keep it, and you're still using it. Don't you think you're disgusting? No, sister, you misunderstood. I'm not using this cup, it's just a customer, so. Li Muhan wanted to explain, but Gu Ruoshi threw the cup directly into the trash can. Don't use my things anymore, don't keep anything of mine, it will make me look down on you, Li Muhan. Li Muhan fell silent. Looking at the beautiful and unfamiliar woman in front of him, he felt a bit sad. I know what you're thinking. You think I'm vain, that's right, Li Muhan. You're an orphan, and my parents are just ordinary working class. They've been poor for a lifetime, so poor that I'm scared. I once thought about working with you, but that's because we're too ignorant and haven't seen the world. For Li Muhan, Gu Ruoshi's parents can be said to have been reborn together. After the orphanage was exposed, Li Muhan was adopted by Gu Ruoshi's parents. So from a certain perspective, there is also a layer of brotherly-sister relationship between Li Muhan and Gu Ruoshi. But at this moment, Gu Ruoshi's gaze at Li Muhan was like looking at some kind of garbage. She lifted the bag in her hand slightly. Do you know how much this bag costs? It's money you can't even earn from working for a year, and this bracelet and pendant. Do you understand what these represent? Seeing that Li Muhan didn't speak, Gu Ruoshi spoke more and more vigorously. These are the keys to the upper world, Li Muhan. You should have looked at my social circle. The garden restaurant he took me to last night was a luxury you could never imagine. Lobster, abalone, and all the ingredients were cooked on site after air transportation. Do you understand what this means? Does it mean you are now a wealthy lady? Li Muhan smiled and joked. It means difference, Li Muhan, it means happiness, the happiness you can never give me. Chapter 4. The Irresistible Temptation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gu Ruoxi looked around, looking at the house rented by Li Muhan for them to live together, with an indescribable disgust on his face. I used to really want to live in this kind of pigsty with you. This is simply not a place where people can live. Do you know where I live now? What exactly are you going to take? Can you hurry up? I currently live in Xingshi, which is the most upscale wealthy district in Tianhai City. And then what? Li Muhan became a bit impatient. He doesn't know why, but his feelings towards Gu Ruoxi have completely changed now. Indeed, he once tried to salvage this relationship, even willing to spend a huge amount of money to buy a bracelet. But now, he just wants this woman to leave here quickly. Indeed, she is beautiful, but some things are difficult to change, such as temperament. She looks like a clown who really wants to blend into a world that doesn't belong to her, wearing gold and silver now. As for the cup she mentioned, it's just that there aren't many cups at home, so Li Muhan washed them clean and gave them to Xia Yue for use. He doesn't even have a chance to explain now. My boyfriend is waiting for me downstairs. You should have seen that car before, so I won't tell you how much it costs. I'm afraid you might have an imbalance in your heart, but it's inevitable that you have such thoughts. Li Muhan, listen to me, let go, don't think about me anymore. I'm here today to take a photo of the two of us together. After listening, Li Muhan walked into the room without saying a word. After a moment, he took out a photo frame with his photo taken with Gu Ruoxi. Once upon a time, the two in the photo had green faces, tightly leaning against each other with happy smiles on their faces. But now everything has changed. Gu Ruoxi doesn't seem to want to see this photo, perhaps because his identity is different now and he disdains to look back on the past. Or perhaps there is still a trace of guilt towards Li Muhan in the deepest part of her heart. Finally, she opened her bag, took out an envelope, and placed it on the dining table. This is the compensation I can think of for you, Li Muhan, accept it. Is this from your boyfriend? Li Mu said with a cold smile. Yes, the money here is enough for you to easily finish college, and you don't have to work so hard every day. Take your money and things and leave quickly. Seeing Li Muhan's attitude, Gu Ruoxi thought he couldn't let go of himself, so he said directly. If you keep getting entangled with me, I'll. Just as Gu Ruoxi was speaking, the bathroom door suddenly opened. Xia Yue, wrapped in a towel, walked out of the bathroom. Her face was a bit flushed because she had just taken a shower, and a slight wipe of her body with a hint of water droplets was enough to make every man's heart skip a beat. Plus the facial features that were enough to crush Gu Ruoxi. All of this left Gu Ruoxi frozen in place. Who is she? Gu Ruoxi pointed at Xia Yue and asked, her tone as if she was still the mistress of this family, haughty. It's nothing to do with you, have you finished taking your things? Li Muhan did not intend to introduce Xia Yue to her. But Gu Ruoxi refused to let go and looked at Li Muhan with some anger. Li Muhan, I haven't even moved my things yet, so you let another woman live in. You're really good. Faced with Gu Ruoxi's sarcastic remarks, Li Muhan remained non-committal. Just as he was about to drive someone out again, Gu Ruoxi suddenly noticed something. She carefully examined Xia Yue's face and suddenly sneered. Who should I be? It turns out to be that influential figure in school. Gu Ruoxi walked up to Xia Yue in expensive and exquisite high heels, and said with a hint of mockery. Are you Xia Yue? Like us, you are a freshman, but I have heard of your reputation for a long time. I heard that you are a woman who can get married with money. How much money did Li Muhan give you? Perhaps it was because Gu Ruoxi felt inexplicable unwillingness when he saw a girl whose beauty had overwhelmed him appear at Li Muhan's home. Her current self-esteem does not allow Li Muhan to find a girlfriend who is even better than her. Even if it's just an excellent appearance, it's not enough. So this unwillingness transformed into extreme malice towards Xia Yue. But Xia Yue didn't react much, just leaning against the door of the restroom, wrapping her fingers around her slightly damp hair. It seems like I have become accustomed to this kind of evaluation. Li Muhan, I have a piece of advice for you. This kind of woman is useless except for her appearance. She is a trash that only parasitizes wealthy people. Don't get addicted to women that money can buy. I don't have. Xia Yue raised her head slightly to look at Li Muhan, as if trying to explain something. But immediately interrupted by Gu Ruoxi's strong voice. You don't need me to tell or remind you who you are. Do you think others don't know about what you did? Helping friends, having an affair with gangsters outside of school, and even how your foster parents died are all mysteries. Maybe it's related to you. But before she could finish speaking, Li Muhan had already stood in front of Xia Yue, staring at Gu Ruoxi with a cold gaze. I accept your advice, Gu Ruoxi. I will definitely not indulge in women who only parasitize wealthy people and can be bought with money. Li Muhan, you. Gu Ruoxi clearly heard the mockery in Li Muhan's words, but the key was that he couldn't refute it yet. Parasitic wealthy people, indeed, she has now risen to the upper echelons of society thanks to a wealthy second-generation young master. Can you buy it with money? Indeed, she abandoned her boyfriend who had been in love for many years for the sake of money. These words are all facts. The irony is that I actually used these words to persuade Li Muhan just now. Gu Ruoxi, who was somewhat embarrassed and angry, pointed at Xia Yue and said. How could a dirty woman like her compare to me? As long as she has money, she might be anyone on the street. Pa, Li Muhan punched Gu Ruoxi on the wall behind her, forcing her to the edge of the wall. At this moment, his eyes were cold, as if emitting a chilling light. Li Muhan, you should have hit me for this kind of woman. You. For the sake of my uncle and aunt, I won't hit you. Get out, and by the way, I'll tell you, she's my woman. Can you leave now? This is the first time Gu Ruoxi has seen such a Li Muhan. When interacting, Li Muhan didn't even speak to her loudly, and she thought he wouldn't have a temper towards anyone, like an obedient little dog. But now, this little dog even showed its fangs to her. And what caused all of this was actually that woman who could be married. Xia Yue also froze at the same time. Because she is just a monster, there are humans willing to protect her even after knowing her true identity, and what he just said I am his, you are really hopeless, Li Muhan. This matter is not over. Take your money with you too. Li Muhan also stuffed the envelope back into Gu Ruoxi's hand. Gu Ruoxi walked quickly to the door, then turned around to look at Li Muhan and then at Xia Yue, who had been silent for a while. She's such a woman who's willing to eat whatever she wants, even picking up men that others don't want, bitch. After whispering this sentence, Gu Ruoxi slammed the door and left. Li Muhan breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the hand that had been hit on the wall. At this moment, the skin was slightly torn and bleeding, and he fell into contemplation. How could I suddenly lose control? Suddenly, his hand was gently grasped by someone. At some point, Xia Yue had already arrived in front of Li Muhan. She gently held Li Muhan's hand with both hands and looked at him with some concern. I'm sorry. I should say, she's my ex-girlfriend. You don't have to worry about what she said, I'll take a shower and calm down. Li Muhan wanted to withdraw his hand, but Xia Yue suddenly pushed him against the wall with astonishing strength. She tightly held Li Muhan's hand, and when she lifted her head slightly, a pair of seductive blood-red eyes were staring at Li Muhan. Sorry, I can't help it anymore. Can I have another blood suction? Ah. You're not talking about the advanced blood clan. No, look at the atmosphere, girl. I'm really sorry, but after sucking on your blood last night, I gradually lost control of myself. Her tone trembled as she looked at Li Muhan's eyes, which had become incredibly tempting due to hunger and thirst. It can be seen that Xia Yue is already trying her best to restrain herself. Perhaps as she said. If you don't suck blood for a long time, you may become weak, but you won't have such a strong desire for blood. I made her taste the blood yesterday, like throwing a piece of fresh meat at a hungry beast. This temptation is irresistible. Chapter 5. Family Members. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At least let me go take a shower first. Li Muhan smiled helplessly. Although extremely reluctant, in the end, Xia Yue still let go of Li Muhan's hand. His face was filled with a reluctant expression. She opened her mouth slightly, and her two sharp teeth, which were faintly visible, did not make Li Muhan feel terrifying. Instead, she felt that the girl in front of him was incredibly tempting. Please be patient a bit, I won't escape. Li Muhan raised his hand, gently rubbed Xia Yue's hair, and then he ran into the bathroom as if fleeing. Li Muhan was organizing his thoughts while taking a shower. There have really been too many things happening during this period. My childhood sweetheart and girlfriend whom I have been in love with for many years have cheated on me and decisively abandoned me. And when he was feeling down, he actually picked up the delinquent girl from school and found out that she was not a human but a vampire. I even made her suck blood. All of this is unbelievable. After taking a shower, Li Muhan, who was still wearing a towel on his head, just opened the bathroom door and found Xia Yue standing at the door. The girl had already fully revealed her vampire posture at this moment. A head of silver long hair, blood-red eyes, and those two sharp canine teeth, as well as those hungry and thirsty evil-looking eyes. Everyone is telling Li Muhan that he can't escape. Excuse me, is it ready now? Nevertheless, she politely asked, with a slight blush on her face. Li Muhan nodded, and just as he spoke, a pair of huge demon wings instantly closed and enveloped him. The girl's slender and petite body pressed against her, and the towel wrapped around her body suddenly slipped off. At this moment, Li Muhan and Xia Yue's bodies were tightly pressed together. Before Li Muhan could feel the delicate body of the girl too much, those two sharp teeth were impatiently piercing towards Li Muhan's neck. Just like last time, at the moment when those two sharp teeth penetrated, an indescribable sense of comfort filled his whole body. This feeling is simply addictive. He didn't struggle, instead he gently hugged the vampire's body. At the end of the disappearance of consciousness, he heard the girl say a gentle sentence in her ear. You just said I'm your woman, so you have to take responsibility. Afterwards, he couldn't hear anything. At the same time, after leaving the apartment, Gu Ruoshi went downstairs and got straight into a luxury supercar. This stinky kid. How dare I hit you? Damn it, I must skin him. No need, my dear, don't get along with that poor guy. He's just not convinced, let's not talk to him anymore. Okay, listen to your baby, can we go now? I have booked a sea view restaurant and invited a music master to play for us. I remember you really like the piano, right? Dear, you're so kind. Let's go quickly. Gu Ruoshi casually threw the photo frame he had taken down out of the window. She doesn't care about the frame or the photos inside. Just because she is already the fiancée of this young master, she absolutely doesn't want her to stay with her ex-boyfriend because this represents her dark history. But at the moment the sports car starts, a pair of crimson eyes suddenly appeared in the shadow. How dare dirty and despicable humans humiliate my master like this? Zila, as soon as the sports car started, one of the tires immediately burst, causing the vehicle to slip and crash into a tree with a loud bang. Watching a man and a woman climb out of the sports car in a disheveled state, the figure in the shadow snorted coldly. If it weren't for the Special Management Bureau, today would definitely not just give you such a small lesson. After speaking, the figure slowly disappeared into the darkness. When the sound of vehicles colliding and alarms came from downstairs, Xia Yue gently propped herself up from the bed. Under her was Li Muhan, who was already asleep. She put on her coat and walked to the bedside to look downstairs. A luxury supercar crashed into a tree due to a tire blowout, and many people were watching. Looking at the crowd in Shirong, Xia Yu's gaze shifted to a deserted alley next to her. Staring at the seemingly lifeless alley, Xia Yu's purple eyes began to turn crimson. "Come out," she said coldly. Then a shadow flashed in from the window, and under the faint moonlight, a slender and tall silver-haired girl appeared in Li Muhan's bedroom. She was wearing a white shirt on her upper body and a black long skirt on her lower body. Her delicate face was particularly cold in the moonlight. "Master." The silver-haired girl lifted her skirt slightly and gave Xia Yue a very elegant curtsy. "You did it, right. Master, I don't want anyone to speak ill of you. Don't call me master, you are not my relative." When talking to this silver-haired girl, Xia Yue felt like a completely different person. Her eyes were cold and aloof, and she couldn't see the timidity she had when facing Li Muhan before. The era of the Blood Clan has passed, and now it is the era of humans dominating the world. If you are targeted by the Special Administrative Bureau, don't expect me to save you. Master, don't worry, I will definitely not implicate you, or do you think that you have any concerns about this human? The girl's gaze turned to Li Muhan, who was sleeping soundly on the bed. Xia Yu's eyes suddenly flashed with a hint of red light. The next second, her figure came to the silver-haired girl and looked down at her coldly, saying, "Don't take his advice, Qiangong Yu. I'm not your master, and you're not my dependent either. You don't need to follow me anymore. Going to other places won't allow two blood clans to exist in a city." "Master." The silver-haired girl wanted to say something more, but in the end, she slowly lowered her head, and then her figure began to transform into a shadow. Finally, the shadow dispersed into a group of bats and flew out of the window. Xia Yue turned around and walked back to the bedside, looking at Li Muhan who was already asleep. Her expression softened a bit, and her eyes returned to a light purple color. She gently reached out her hand, wanting to touch Li Muhan's cheek, but her fingers stopped at the moment of touch. In the end, she just obediently lay by Li Muhan's side, closing her eyes. The next day is Monday. Li Muhan and Xia Yue both have morning classes, and after having breakfast together, they arrived at the university. "I'm in the teaching building over there." After finishing speaking, Xia Yue waved at Li Muhan and left. I don't know why, but Li Muhan felt that Xia Yue didn't seem willing to say another word to him at school, as if he was afraid of being seen as a passerby. Muhan. When school was over, Li Muhan was stopped by his friend Luo Yang. This is one of Li Muhan's few friends. They are also high school classmates and both know Gu Ruoshi. Of course, he also knew about the relationship between Li Muhan and Gu Ruoshi. "Are you and Gu Ruoshi completely finished?" On the way home from school, Li Muhan accompanied Luo Yang on his way home. Luo Yang pushed a bicycle that he had been riding since middle school until now. "Well, that's it. It's a pity that you guys were so close in high school. You sprinkled dog food in front of me every day, tsk. Li Muhan and Gu Ruoshi used to get bored together almost every day in high school because Li Muhan was an orphan, so Gu Ruoshi's parents also took good care of him. Even the two elders have regarded Li Muhan as their future son.in.law. Who would have thought it would turn out like this now? If Li Muhan told Luo Yang that he almost punched Gu Ruoshi twice yesterday, I don't know what Luo Yang's expression would be now. Seeing that Li Muhan remained silent, Luo Yang thought he had poked his pain and said with some guilt. "Alright, don't be unhappy anymore. You're not working today, are you?" "Well, I didn't work today." "Okay, buddy, please go have barbecue. I know a really delicious barbecue restaurant." Li Muhan originally intended to decline because he didn't know when Xia Yue would return home and whether she would have any food to eat after returning home. Later, he thought about it and gave her a spare key. If possible, just go home early and bring some barbecue for her. So the two of them arrived at the barbecue restaurant. "Muhan, you're tall and handsome, and you're afraid you won't find a good woman. That kind of woman who kicks you away when you fall in love with a young master, let's not do it. After a few drinks, Luo Yang was already a bit unsure of his surname. He patted Li Muhan's shoulder to comfort him. But Li Muhan's heart was incredibly calm. The taste of this barbecue stall is good, it's rare for you to taste it normally once. Li Muhan smiled and teased Luo Yang, who was drunk. He remembered that he had taken Li Muhan to the Lamian Noodles restaurant before. Because the owner had not served for a long time, Li Muhan urged him. The boss said directly, "Don't panic, pull it out quickly." Li Muhan was completely dumbfounded. He looked around and found that this place was also very popular. Most of the guests were young people, and there were also some elderly people sitting at the same table. However, no matter which table it was, there were only two men like them. "Muhan, don't you believe what I'm saying? I told you that if you can do it, you can definitely do it. If you want to find a girlfriend, you can find her in minutes. Sai, look, that girl is really good." Li Muhan looked in the direction of Luo Yang's fingers and happened to see a waitress at a barbecue stall. Chapter 6. Could you please come to your doorstep? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The waitress had a slender and petite figure, with long black hair tied in a ponytail and a mask on her face. She couldn't see her face, and her clothes were an ordinary white long-sleeved hoodie. Moreover, the hoodie felt a bit too big to fit her. Wait a minute. Li Muhan narrowed his eyes. The girl's clothes looked so familiar. He seemed to have the same clothes. Although the waitress was wearing a mask, her eyes were very beautiful, even emitting a faint purple fluorescence. "Hello, is this your barbecue?" At this moment, the girl walked over and placed a handful of grilled meat on the plate. Her voice was ethereal and somewhat cold, like a passing night breeze, giving off a clear and refreshing feeling. And Li Muhan felt her voice extremely familiar, as if he had heard it more than once recently somewhere. "Yes, thank you." Li Muhan nodded. The girl turned around and left. But Li Muhan's eyes were still fixed on her back, and he was about to remember. "Ah! I said Li Muhan. What's going on with you, kid?" Luo Yang's voice interrupted Li Muhan's thoughts. "You've already had 6 bottles of wine. Why doesn't your face show any signs of redness? I remember your young man had a poor tolerance for alcohol. 2 bottles would make you want to die. Why are you so powerful now?" After being reminded by Luo Yang, Li Muhan realized that he had already finished 6 bottles of beer. Although it wasn't too much, he really didn't feel anything now, compared to Luo Yang who was already a bit drunk. Li Muhan's face didn't even turn red. "Forget it, let's not talk about that. What did you think of that girl just now? What's it like?" Li Muhan ate the skewers while holding up his cup and drank them all in one gulp. This time he savored it carefully, and after drinking the beer, there was no other feeling except for a bloating. It's like alcohol has lost its effect on him. I'll tell you, even though she's wearing a mask, based on my countless experiences with women, she's definitely a beauty. Lao Luo, you dare to claim to have read countless girls without even talking about girlfriends. Li Muhan joked with a smile. Luo Yang was obviously a bit drunk. He picked up his cup and pointed at Li Muhan drunkenly, saying, "Don't look down on me, don't look down on me. I just don't want to be in a relationship. If I want to, I'll take a minute." Looking at Li Muhan's expression of disbelief, Luo Yang became anxious. He grabbed Li Muhan and walked towards the side. "Don't you believe it? I'll prove it to you now. It's 10 p.m. now, which is the busiest time at the barbecue stall. The waitress just now seemed to be a beginner, and she was scolded by the boss for serving the wrong dishes several times. I am currently cleaning up the garbage from a table of guests who have already left. Sister. Hello." Suddenly, Luo Yang dragged Li Muhan to the side of the waitress, and he loudly greeted the waitress who was tidying up the table. "Hello. The girl lifted her head and looked at Luo Yang with a pair of agile eyes. May I ask if you can date me? Li Muhan didn't expect that Luo Yang actually spoke up. He felt an extremely awkward atmosphere now, as the girl was looking at him with her head tilted and an inexplicable gaze. Sorry, I have a boyfriend. For a long time, the girl said a faint sentence. Luo Yang felt as if he had been dealt a huge blow. I told you not to embarrass yourself, is it okay now? Li Muhan patted Luo Yang on the back, but before Luo Yang could answer, the waitress had already walked up to Li Muhan's side. She looked up at Li Muhan and said, Tonight is my first day working, so I may have to go back later. You don't have to wait for me. Li Muhan was stunned when he tried to comfort Luo Yang. Luo Yang is also foolish. He turned his head and stared blankly at Li Muhan, then at the girl. Do you two know each other? Before Li Muhan could speak, Xia Yue nodded and said. He is my boyfriend. Luo Yang suddenly spread out on the chair, pointing at Li Muhan, who was stunned. Xia Yue. Li Muhan finally recognized Xia Yue. Why are you here? After all, I can't live in your house for nothing. I also want to work part-time like you to earn some money, at least to subsidize my living expenses. Looking at the girl in front of him, Li Muhan suddenly felt a bit unbelievable. A vampire beautiful girl was actually working at a barbecue stall at night. At this point, Luo Yang was completely paralyzed, and he didn't even have the strength to ask Li Muhan what was going on. Seeing him like this, Li Muhan had no choice but to help him call a taxi. As for his bicycle, he had to push it home and leave it for tomorrow before returning it to him. After seeing off Luo Yang, Li Muhan returned to the barbecue stall and settled the bill. Although he had agreed that Luo Yang would treat him, he ended up paying the bill himself. Li Muhan gave a bitter smile. Xia Yue is still busy, and Li Muhan doesn't want to disturb her anymore. He originally wanted to wait for her to go home with him, but sitting on the barbecue stall and not eating seems a bit unsightly. So he stood up and found an opportunity to say something to Xia Yue. Then you should pay more attention to safety when you go home on your own. Afterwards, he left. Pushing Luo Yang's car, Li Muhan walked on his way home. The cold wind on a winter night was blowing hard into his coat, and Li Muhan used to work until midnight when he returned home. He always felt cold and sleepy, which was simply unbearable. But today he faced these cold winds without any feeling at all. It's almost 11 p.m. now, and he doesn't feel any drowsiness. What's even more strange is that he had to rely on a flashlight on his phone before this section of the path without streetlights. But now, Li Muhan can clearly see any corner of this darkness. Just as Li Muhan was walking in the middle of the path, suddenly a car in front of him blocked his way horizontally. 4 or 5 men in black suits got off the car. Li Muhan had a premonition that something was wrong and wanted to step back, but he was also blocked by a car behind him. Several men wearing black suits also got off the car. Are you Li Muhan? The last person to get off the car was a handsome and tall man, about the same age as Li Muhan, but he looked very imposing and looked like a young master from a wealthy family. It's me, you guys shouldn't be blocking the way and robbing, right? Li Muhan smiled and procrastinated, while searching for a way to escape. He grew up in a hellish orphanage and was very alert to danger. He knew that these people were not kind tonight, although he was good at fighting. But these men in suits all seemed to have extraordinary skills, with 2 fists difficult to match 4 hands. If they want to fight hard, they will definitely not be able to make it. You hit my girlfriend, right? The man walked over to Li Muhan with a sneer, and he kept covering his mouth with a high-end handkerchief, as if the air and smell here were unbearable for him. It's me. May I ask if you have anything to do with me? In fact, Li Muhan already knew that this man was the wealthy young master next to Gu Ruoshi. The man took a deep breath of the scent from the handkerchief and his face slightly softened. After confirming the identity of Li Muhan, the young man turned around and got on the car. Before getting on, he waved his hand and whispered something. "Hands on." Then a group of men in suits attacked Li Muhan from front to back. Li Muhan suddenly pushed the bicycle in his hand, blocking the 4 black-clothed people in front of him for a while, and then turned around and rushed towards the several black-clothed people behind him. He has decided to give it a desperate blow. With so many people, no matter how proficient he is in fighting skills, he cannot escape unscathed. Although they have tried their best to resist, these men in suits are obviously practitioners. Li Muhan was kicked to the ground by them 3 times and 5 times. Fists rained down on Li Muhan's body, and he quickly gave up resistance. Usually, resistance would only make him more severely beaten. So Li Muhan tried his best to protect his head and abdomen, avoiding some fatal injuries. "Alright, bring him over to me." The wealthy second-generation young master sat in the passenger seat of the car, opening the car door wide and watching the situation here. Li Muhan was grabbed like a rag and dragged to the side of the car. He was already covered in injuries and couldn't even stand steadily. "Do you think I'm bothering you because you slapped her?" He slowly squatted in front of Li Muhan, lit a cigarette, and looked at Li Muhan lying on the ground like looking at garbage, saying, "You're wrong, kid. Do you really think I would be so interested in that kind of woman? I just think she's beautiful and wants to play. Of course, she can also use my resources to climb up. Kid, your ex-girlfriend is much smarter than you." The young master grabbed Li Muhan's hair and forced him to stare at him. "Where the fuck did I offend you?" Li Muhan said weakly. "She said you've known each other since high school, and it's only because you kept clinging to her that we were together. Whether it's true or not, I don't want to see you in touch again." Zhao Qianquan patted Li Muhan's face with his hands. "What surprised me was that this woman was actually the first time she made me take responsibility for her, which made me laugh to death. She hasn't let you touch her for so long, you know, it's only been a week. I just added her contact information for a week, and after a meal and a phone, she went with me to open a room." At this point, Zhao Qianquan took a strong puff of smoke and spat it on Li Muhan's face. "Your girlfriend is very moist." Zhao Qianquan snapped his fingers and the man in a suit next to him immediately brought a camera. Li Muhan now has no strength at all and can only let those men in suits pick him up. "Let me show you something good." Zhao Qianquan threw away his cigarette butt and leaned the camera in front of Li Muhan. Li Muhan slowly moved his eyes towards the camera and saw a man and a woman naked in bed doing indescribable things in the scene. And that woman is his ex-girlfriend Gu Ruoshi. Chapter 7. The Strange Theater. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why, if you take off your clothes, you can't recognize her. This is your ex-girlfriend. Look, she's so naughty in bed. This should be the side you've never seen in your life, right? Zhao Qianquan hugged Li Muhan's shoulder, as if appreciating something interesting with friends. "I know you're angry now, but you should accept reality. I also want to tell you that your girlfriend is just one of my many toys. Do you know that it's really satisfying to be a woman like this who has never seen the world before?" Anger. Is Li Muhan angry? He should be angry. But now his heart is incredibly calm. When he saw Gu Ruoxigio panting heavily on the bed under the pressure of Zhao Qianquan, his heart only felt sad. Feeling sad for Gu Ruoshi without any anger. Pa-da-da, Zhao Qianquan turned off the camera and grabbed Li Muhan's hair. "Kid, even if I say more about the gap between us, you probably won't feel it, so I'm not going to talk nonsense. I have a cleanliness fetish, so you can't say one more word to that little rascal before I get tired of her. Do you understand?" Li Muhan not only didn't get angry, but also smiled, and then he turned his head. Pooh! A mouthful of bloody saliva spat on Zhao Qianquan's face. A hint of killing intent flashed in the young master's eyes. He wiped away the stain with a handkerchief, then stood up and took out a baseball bat from the trunk of the car, and walked back to Li Muhan with a sneer. What a hell of a death wish. Bang, the baseball bat hit Li Muhan hard on the head. A muffled sound echoed through the quiet winter night, and blood instantly flowed down Li Muhan's head. A useless thing, can only stay at the bottom forever. After he finished speaking, he threw away the baseball bat, and several black-clad men also released Li Muhan and prepared to get on the car. At this moment, Li Muhan was dizzy, with a blood-red color in front of him. He could hardly hear any external sounds. He desperately wanted to lift his head, and in a daze, he saw the wealthy second generation and the man in black getting on the car. Li Muhan tried hard to breathe, but every breath would make his chest explode and ache. I may be dying. Li Muhan felt his body gradually becoming cold, and the pain began to dissipate. His gaze was gradually surrounded by a black mist, and his body was gradually sinking, as if countless hands were dragging him into an endless abyss. An ancient and mysterious language awakened Li Muhan, who gradually regained consciousness from chaos. Where is this? He touched his head, there was no blood, and there was no pain in his body after being beaten, as if the previous incident of being beaten by Zhao Qiankuan and others was just a dream. He stood up with his hands on the ground, looking around. It was pitch black, with only a huge and magnificent stone gate standing in front of him. This iron door is several tens of meters high, and except for this huge door, everything else is pitch black. Is it going to hell? Li Muhan smiled self-deprecatingly. I haven't done anything bad in my daily life, why would I still go to hell after death? He carefully observed the iron door, which was engraved with countless runes, emitting a mysterious and ancient atmosphere. Surrounded by these runes are one relief after another, each depicting a monster with a strange and twisted figure. Li Muhan carefully placed his hand on the door and pushed it. Without a doubt, there was no movement in this huge door. Just as he was puzzled, an indescribable murmur passed through his mind through the hands that touched the door. Key. A large influx of language with unclear meanings. That was a language that Li Muhan had never heard before, but it was as if it was engraved on his soul, and he could completely remember and retell it. Li Muhan followed the sound in his mind and recited this ancient spell. As the spell was finished, the heavy iron door slowly opened inward with a loud bang. Li Muhan originally thought he would see a sea of corpses and blood, or it should also be a terrifying scene like a demon's nest. But on the contrary. Inside the door was a huge opera house. Li Muhan once saw this type of opera house on television, with the audience seats surrounding the stage in a circular shape. And Li Muhan didn't know when he had already stood in the center of the stage. The spotlight hit Li Muhan's head, and he squinted his eyes when the strong light shone on him. It took him a long time to see clearly. The black shadows in the audience are not human at all, but rather one statue after another with various forms. Is this the world after death? That's too abstract. Li Muhan could not help but murmur a word of remorse. At this moment, the eyes of a statue in the front audience lit up with a red light. Li Muhan happened to face its gaze. In an instant, he was dragged into another space. This is a dilapidated temple, with dim optical fibers and ruins all around, except for one throne that remains intact. And on that throne sat a young man. He has a handsome appearance, with black skin engraved with golden runes. His white hair looks messy, and his clothes are unrecognizable by Li Muhan, but he looks a bit of a Cuban style. At this moment, the young man's eyes, which were flickering with dim golden light, looked ahead aimlessly, as if passing through Li Muhan and looking towards the endless void behind him. May I ask if this is heaven or hell? Li Muhan walked up to the throne and asked. But the boy didn't answer, just holding his chin with his hand and murmuring to himself. Why did you lose? Why did you lose? At this moment, a mechanical sound rang out in Li Muhan's mind. Demon. Ball level. Annihilation level soul state. Damaged task. Help Ball repair his soul. At each stage of repair, he will gain a portion of Baal's power. Current recovery level. 0% bar. Li Muhan looked at the young man in front of him who seemed to have been beaten silly. He turned out to be the first demon god to sign a contract with King Solomon, the 72-pillar demon god. King Bar. Li Muhan is not particularly familiar with the myths and legends of King Solomon, but only knows that this is the king of ancient Israel who signed a contract with demons to obtain supreme wisdom. No wonder Ball looks like a fool, it turns out he has lost his soul. Li Muhan suddenly had a thought in his heart. Is it because I haven't died yet? As long as you can gain the power of Ball, can you still fight back from the ground up? Thinking of this, he gathered his energy and began to communicate with Bar. After all, you need to know the root of the illness to help him repair it. Hello, my name is Li Muhan. Are you really Ball? The first demon god among the 72 demon gods. Hey, did you know that there are also many characters of you in the game? You are a general who controls lightning in the game, isn't it impressive? Why don't you just reply? Finally, Li Muhan felt helpless, and no matter what he said, the young man ignored him. So he decided to take the last resort and directly slapped Bar in the face. Pa pa, a crisp sound echoed through the empty ruins of the temple. Ball seemed to suddenly wake up, looking up slightly at Li Muhan, his eyes full of confusion. Who are you? Before Li Muhan could speak, a voice in his mind suddenly reminded him. Awakened Baal's soul, current repair level. 1%. You have obtained Baal's gaze and are gaining power from Baal. Lying trough. Li Muhan cursed in his heart. Isn't this just a slap in the face? Is it possible that if I continue to slap him a few more times, the progress can still be accelerated? Before he could react, his body was suddenly occupied by a mysterious force that seemed to be tampering with every cell of his body. This gives Li Muhan a feeling of rebirth. After this force dissipated, the voice reappeared in Li Muhan's mind. Learn domain skill. Wan Lei Yin Sha, boundary ability. In the realm, your strength, endurance, speed, and mental strength are increased tenfold compared to usual. In the realm, you can obtain the power of Baal to control lightning. In the realm, you can absorb the power of all electrical appliances in the domain to strengthen yourself. In the realm, as long as lightning does not extinguish, you will never die or die. Boundary range. Radius of 1 kilometer boundary level. Level 2, Li Muhan was stunned. I slapped this demon myself in exchange for such good things. He quickly rolled up his sleeves and was about to continue beating the boy. But at this moment, the boy had already broken free from the dull state he had just experienced. He stared at Li Muhan as if he could see what he had gained from his own body. Power is not so easy to control. If you don't believe it, you can give it a try. After speaking, the young man raised his hand and lightly flicked it. Li Muhan's consciousness immediately seemed to be drained from his body and flew towards the darkness deep inside the temple. At the same time, Zhao Qianquan spat at Li Muhan's body lying on the ground and cursed as he returned to his car. Damn it, how could Gu Ruoshi have liked this kind of idiot before? Give him money, don't want it, and insist on seeking death. Zhao Qianquan sat in the passenger seat and lit a cigarette. Young master, he hasn't died yet. Should we just handle it? It's not the first time you've done this kind of thing. Handle it clean. I've checked and found out that he's an orphan with no relatives. Even if he sinks into the sea, no one will interfere with him. Wait, it's going to rain. Zhao Qianquan took a puff of smoke and looked out the window at the night sky. The originally quiet sky also began to roll with a burst of thunderclouds, and thunder flickered within the clouds. This damn weather, but it's also convenient for you to do things. While waiting for the rain, take his body. Ha! Joking, he looked at Li Muhan outside the car. But at that moment, he froze. Because Li Muhan's body, which was supposed to be unconscious on the ground, is missing. At that moment, a loud bang came from the roof of the car. Sleeping slot. What's the noise of B. The young master looked up at the sunken roof in astonishment. Several people in black quickly got off the car to check the situation. One of them had just gotten off the car and turned around to look at the roof when he was so scared that he sat down on the ground. Because Li Muhan, who should have been lying on the ground, is now standing on the roof of the car. His shirt broke open, revealing his body covered in eerie runes. His hands had turned into lacquered black claws, even entwined with lightning. What's even more frightening is that Li Muhan has a demon-like horn growing on his head, and a long, lacquered black tail has also emerged from his coccyx. The monster stared at the crowd with a pair of golden pupils. The corners of his mouth widened, revealing an evil smile. The boundary is opened, and 10,000 thunder lure and kill. Chapter 8. The Demons of Solomon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as the monster spoke this sentence in a hoarse voice, thunderclouds rushed towards the earth in an instant, rapidly spreading to a radius of 1 kilometer around the demon. However, these thunderbolts did not dissipate, but instead enveloped the entire kilometer. A field composed of lightning has formed. Monster! Monster! The man in the suit shouted loudly, seemingly attracting the attention of the demon on the roof. All the men in suits pulled out their pistols and pointed them at the demon standing on the roof of the car. Shoot! Shoot! Bang 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 bang. Bang 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 bang. Bullets poured out like raindrops, but when approaching the monster's body, they were all blocked by an electric current. When the bullets were fired, everyone was also dumbfounded. I saw that a wall composed of bullets had already formed densely in front of the demon. What the hell is that his mother thing? The man in the suit screamed in fear. But he hasn't let out this sound yet. Looking down, the demon's flashing lightning claws had penetrated his chest. Blood spurted out in an instant. His body twitched violently a few times before finally coming to a complete stop. His eyes were filled with endless fear and astonishment, clearly he never expected himself to end his life so hastily. Help! Ah ah ah! Help! Don't kill me! Don't kill me! Grass! Don't kill me! Then came a massacre. A man in black was torn to pieces by a monster just as the thunder flashed by. In an instant, screams, gunshots, and lightning intertwined to compose a melancholic rhapsody of hell. When the last man in black died under the monster's claws, everything returned to silence. And Zhao Qianquan. He was holding a pistol in his hand, huddled in the back seat of the car, holding his head and trembling. Don't. There was no movement outside, but Zhao Qianquan still dared not look up. He prayed that everything would pass quickly, and he prayed that the monster did not notice him. But all of this is impossible. A heavy breath shattered the silence. Who? Who is it? I am the young master of the Zhao's consortium. Don't touch me. My father. Before he could finish speaking, a paw suddenly extended out of the car and pulled the young master who was huddled in the back seat out. The young master was grabbed by the monster's claws and lifted in mid-air. He tried to lift his gun and fired several shots at the monster's head. But the bullet is still blocked by the invisible electric barrier in front of the monster. All of this made Zhao Qianquan despair. I'm sorry. I'll give you back your woman. I'll give you whatever you want. You want money, I have money. I have a lot of money. The monster tilted its head slightly, its emotionless golden pupils staring at Zhao Qianquan as if it were staring at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Suddenly, he smiled, with that terrifying smile again. Then the monster raised its hand and snapped its fingers. Bang! A thunderbolt struck and accurately turned Zhao Qianquan's right hand into ashes, leaving no bones or flesh residue. Ah 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 ah. Ah. My hands. My hands. Pain and fear tormented Zhao Qianquan. From childhood to adulthood, he didn't even scratch his skin much, but now, one of his hands is gone, and he is still being blasted into pieces by a monster with lightning. Nose and tears covered Zhao Qianquan's cheeks. He knew he would definitely die today, but it seemed that the monster was not ready to kill him, but wanted to torture him for a long time. Just as the monster was about to reach out its claws and dig out Zhao Qianquan's eyes, the thundercloud that was originally within the realm suddenly seemed to have been forcibly torn open by someone. Then a bright full moon hung in the sky. The pure white moonlight projected from the thunderclouds. Accompanied by the moonlight came a young girl with huge wings. The girl's long silver hair fluttered in the wind, and her blood-red gaze looked down at the demon from above. The realm is open, and crimson hunting is underway. Accompanied by the girl's words, the bright moon instantly turned crimson, and then the blood-red moonlight completely dissipated the thunder clouds, illuminating the city. The demon lifted his head and looked at Xia Yue, with a hint of excitement in his golden eyes. He threw down Zhao Qianquan, who was almost unconscious from pain, and faced the girl floating under the blood moon. "Wake up, Li Muhan." Xia Yue looked coldly at the demon and said. But this demon has almost no reason other than bloodthirsty. Now he has regarded Xia Yue as another hunter, a hunter who has broken into his own territory. Xia Yue seemed to see that she couldn't communicate now. She sighed and slowly extended her paw. Bang! The thunder roared again, and the demon bent down slightly before pouncing towards Xia Yue in mid-air. His movements were extremely fast, and his momentum was as heavy as a shell carrying lightning. Xia Yue, who had transformed into a vampire form, simply held down the face of the oncoming monster with one hand, then plunged to the ground and pressed the monster to the ground. At the same time, the pointed parts of her wings fiercely nailed the monster's arms to the ground like nails. Through the gaps in Xia Yue's fingers, the demon's chaotic eyes stared fixedly at the vampire in front of him. Then there was a strange smile. Xia Yue's face was as cold as frost, as if she knew that Li Muhan was about to rebel. Before he could resist, Xia Yue's hand that held Li Muhan's head tightly exerted force, and to her surprise, she pressed a crack in the ground. Calm down, Li Muhan. Learn to control this force and don't let it lead you by the nose. Li Muhan's pupils slowly moved upwards, and his gaze at Xia Yue was filled with a sense of surprise, followed by teasing. He spoke a burst of ancient language in his mouth. Then a thunderbolt suddenly struck Xia Yue. The wings behind Xia Yue quickly stirred up, leading the girl to avoid the attack of lightning. The demon who was able to escape grabbed Xia Yue, who had not yet stood firm, with a speed that was so fast that it was astonishing. Then the thick demon's tail pierced the girl's body with a swish. The girl's petite body was pierced and lifted into mid-air, with blood constantly gushing out from her abdomen. But there was no expression of pain on her face. On the contrary, it was a demon who froze after piercing Xia Yue with his tail, and then his golden pupils began to dim and his body began to tremble. Looking around again, there were broken corpses everywhere, and at this moment, Li Muhan woke up. He killed people, killed many, many people. Finally, he looked at Xia Yue in front of him with a trembling crying voice and said. Xia Yue. Yes. Did I hurt you? Did I do all of this? Xia Yue was hung by the demon's tail in front of her. She slowly raised her hand, lifted the demon's cheek, and said in a gentle voice. Don't worry, I won't let you have anything to do. Then her wings slowly closed, enveloping Li Muhan's body inside. Then Xia Yue suddenly opened her mouth, a pair of terrifying fangs flickering with fluorescence under the thunder. The sharp teeth penetrated Li Muhan's neck, as if injecting him with a sedative. His body began to slowly stop trembling, and the runes on his body gradually faded away. Finally, there were the devil's horns and tail. It has once again transformed back into human form. And the lightning barriers surrounding them also collapsed in this moment. Li Muhan felt that the forces and restless emotions that almost drove him crazy suddenly disappeared completely, as if they had been completely absorbed. His expression slowly regained calmness, and his gaze regained its luster from the chaotic darkness. I killed a lot of people, what's going on with me? He felt his body soften, and everything that had just happened seemed like a nightmare. You're just tired, go to sleep. Xia Yue still had a trace of Li Muhan's blood at the corner of her mouth. After licking the blood, she gently lifted Li Muhan, who had fallen asleep, and then glanced at Zhao Qianquan, who was lying on the ground holding his broken hand and had already wet his pants in fear. No, don't kill me. I was wrong. Don't kill me. Zhao Qianquan had already appeared somewhat weak due to excessive blood loss, and at this moment, he was so frightened that tears and runny nose flowed down his face. Xia Yue ignored him completely and hugged Li Muhan's body. In the next moment, her whole body turned into a shadow, which scattered into countless bats and disappeared into this quiet winter night. And the crimson moon in the sky gradually returned to its original state. Chapter 9. Natural Disaster Level Aliens. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this time, there is a bank building in Tianhai City. The lobby on the first floor of the bank, which has long been closed, is frequented by people entering and exiting. However, these people did not walk through the main entrance, but instead went straight down to the underground fifth floor through a hidden elevator on the side. And this is a specially established action point by an organization. At this moment, sharp and piercing alarms were constantly ringing on the fifth underground floor, urging the staff to rush to their work positions as soon as possible. The woman rubbed her sleepy eyes while wearing a suit jacket. After receiving the coffee handed over by her colleague, she quickly walked with the others to the deepest intelligence hall. At this moment, 4 people had already gathered in the intelligence hall, 2 men and 2 women, each with an extraordinary aura between their eyebrows. 2 different types of boundary reactions appeared together at the same time. Is it a territorial conflict? Is it related to the sudden thunderstorm that just arrived? The middle-aged man in a black windbreaker frowned and said. If it's a territorial dispute, can we still stay here to discuss? A shrewd and capable woman wearing glasses said coldly to the man. According to our intelligence agent's report, the location of the accident is in Shijie district, Tianhai City. It is a deserted small road with almost no residents or shops nearby, and there is no damage to the street or buildings. Another tall woman projected the intelligence onto a street where more than a dozen black uniformed staff members were packing one body after another into a shroud bag. 10 people died and 1 person was injured at the scene, and we have no record of any abnormal boundary reaction. After listening to the tall woman's report, the black windbreaker man snorted coldly and said. What about the other one? Disaster level boundary response. After listening to the woman's words, the black windbreaker man suddenly stood up, and in that moment, his cold sweat soaked his back. What? Natural disaster level. What do the people of the Special Management Bureau do to eat? Surprisingly, natural disaster level mutants are allowed to appear in the city. The girl sitting in the chair stood up without speaking. She was wearing a black suit and uniform, looking around 20 years old. Her short black shoulder-length hair was tied into a capable ponytail. And she always wore such an elusive smile on her face. Now she stood up, and everyone's gaze was focused on her. Regarding this, I would like to explain that this Natural Disaster Level 1 is a registered personnel managed by our Special Management Bureau. As soon as these words were spoken, the other few were somewhat surprised. There are natural disaster-level anomalies under management in Tianhai City. Why do we never know about this? Deputy Director Lin, would you like to explain it? The girl named Deputy Director Lin glanced at the black windbreaker man and ignored his questioning. The others also looked at the girl, as if they all had the same doubts. She slowly picked up the coffee cup on the table, stirred it and said with a smile. The Special Administrative Bureau is independent of all agencies, whether it is your Central Intelligence Agency, Ministry of National Security, or military, we have no obligation to report to you. Lin Ju, that's not quite right. So since you don't need us, what are you calling us for? The glasses woman helped her thin-framed glasses and said with some dissatisfaction. Director Wei, don't be angry. Since we have invited you to come, we have no intention of concealing this matter. The girl picked up a tablet and walked to the screen. As we have just learned, there are 2 boundary reactions that have appeared in the city this time, and the one with a natural disaster-level anomaly was already under our supervision 15 years ago. Her fingers moved a few times on the screen, and a file of a beautiful girl with black hair immediately appeared on the projection, and the name of the file was prominently written with the words, Maria. Can you first introduce what exactly this Xia Yue is like? The man in the black windbreaker said. Xia Yue, whose real name is unknown, belongs to an unknown myth, and has an unknown age of existence, is a relatively special alien species. The alien race is a blood race, but it is different from the general blood race. She is not keen on creating family members to increase her own power, but instead has a strong desire to root herself in human society and live in a human way. 5 years ago, she was adopted by an elderly couple and changed her name to Xia Yue. 15 years ago, as a guarantor, I allowed her to enter the Special Management Bureau, and now she has inexplicably come into contact with another alien, and has also used the power of the realm. This naturally falls on me, and I will be responsible for investigating it thoroughly, including the other newly emerged alien. 15 years ago. Everyone present was somewhat surprised. The Forest Bureau said she guaranteed this alien to enter the Special Management Bureau 15 years ago, but she doesn't seem to be 20 years old. Isn't she just a child 15 years ago? As if sensing everyone's confusion, the girl smiled somewhat embarrassed. The age of a girl is a secret, I hope everyone can understand. Okay, the Special Management Bureau is a special organization that manages different types of organizations. Those who can lead this special organization can't say it's not another type of different type. After a brief description, Lin Zhe put down the tablet and picked up her coffee cup as she walked towards the door. Hey, where are you going? The black windbreaker man stopped Lin Zhe. Lin Zhe walked to the door and turned to look at the black windbreaker man, smiling slightly. Go investigate thoroughly, sir. After finishing speaking, she closed the door and left. This woman is too impolite. Just leave us here like this. I have to go to her superiors to complain about her. The tall woman patted the man in the windbreaker's shoulder and said earnestly. I advise you not to. If it's according to the level, you have to call her Mr. Lin, and the work she's going to do must not be delayed at all. Ah. Isn't she just a deputy director? She. Don't you understand the administrative level of the Special Management Bureau? And as for anomalies, we ordinary people have no way out. Who can make the Special Management Bureau capable? So, what are we here for? The black windbreaker man sat helplessly on the chair. Soon, his question was answered, and a task brief appeared on the projection. That is a photo of Zhao Qiankuan, along with a brief description of the mission. This is the only survivor of this incident, Zhao Qiankuan. His father is the CEO of the Zhao Foundation, so we hope that all departments can work together to smooth out the aftermath of this matter. The 3 people who saw the task all had expressions of displeasure. Especially for men in black windbreakers. Call us here to wipe our butts for the Special Administrative Bureau. Why? There's really no respect at all. I won't do this. If you're willing to wipe their butt, just go ahead. This time, the heads of several top institutions have reached a consensus. What's the point of assigning tasks directly to them in this way? Are you really treating them like minions? But at this moment, everyone's phone received a text message. The same person is sending the text message, and everyone is foolish when they see it. This is a person whose status cannot be disobeyed. There is only one message in the message. Please all department leaders fully cooperate with the work of the Special Management Bureau without any errors. A few people, you look at me, I look at you, and in the end, all the discomfort can only turn into a helpless bitter smile. The special nature of this Special Management Bureau in China can be basically said to be a special department independent of all administrative agencies. Its administrative level is unimaginable. Okay, that's all for now. Let's go back to work. The tall woman was the first to make a statement at this moment. She gave a slight smile to the other people and was the first one to leave the office. The glasses woman helped her glasses and nodded slightly towards the black windbreaker man before leaving the office. Finally, there was the man in the windbreaker who hesitated to speak, and in the end, 1,000 words were reduced to just one word. Grass. At the same time, in the top operating room of the most authoritative first hospital in Tianhai City, a group of first-class doctors rushed from all over the country to nervously perform surgery on Zhao Qiankuan. Although his arm was intact, due to being electrically cleaved, the cells at the junction died, and even if it was reconnected, it could not be restored. What they need to do now is to save Zhao Qiankuan's life as much as possible, so that he won't have any sequelae due to this car accident. At the entrance of the operating room, a tall man sat on a chair, looking in his 50s with a determined face, especially his sharp eyes, like those of a falcon, staring fixedly at the door of the operating room. He is Zhao Zhijiang, the CEO of the Zhao Foundation, and also the father of Zhao Qiankuan. After learning that his son had a car accident, Zhao Zhijiang immediately flew over from another city. Although he was not the only son, he was not very satisfied with this son. But ultimately, it's our own flesh and blood. Zhao Zhijiang didn't believe the car accident that the police told him. The bodyguards who followed his son all died. He had someone go to the scene to see them, and there were no signs of a car accident. This is a retaliatory action against oneself. Zhao Zhijiang, who has been wandering around shopping malls for years, knows very well that shopping malls are battlefields. He has offended too many people, and for a while, he couldn't pinpoint who his target was. But he swore that no matter how much force he used, he would make the person who harmed his son pay the price. Li Muhan suddenly opened his eyes and saw the familiar ceiling. He had already returned to bed, while Xia Yue was lying by his bed. It seems that my own awakening also woke up the girl. Xia Yue slowly stood up. What exactly happened last night? Li Muhan vaguely remembered losing consciousness after being humiliated and beaten by Zhao Qiankuan. But he could still feel that he seemed to have seen a lot of blood and many people died in his own hands. When she regained consciousness again, she was already embraced by Xia Yue in her vampire form. Did I kill someone? Did I kill someone? Li Muhan's eyes trembled as he looked at Xia Yue. Xia Yue sat by the bed and gently raised her hand to Li Muhan's shoulder, saying gently. It's normal for your power to lose control when you first activate the realm. Will I lose control as long as I use this power in the future? Just as Xia Yue was about to answer, the door was knocked on. Chapter 10. Monster's Perspective. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's 9 p.m. now. How could anyone come to your door so late? Li Muhan doesn't have many friends. Did Luo Yang come to ask for his bicycle? Just as Li Muhan was stunned, the voice of a young woman came from the door. Sorry, can you open the door? I'm not a bad person. Upon hearing this voice, Xia Yu's expression clearly became nervous. When Li Muhan woke up and opened the door, a beautiful girl in a suit and with a tall figure stood outside. Her short hair was tied into a ponytail, with an indistinguishable smile on her face, and she was carrying a plastic bag in her hand. "I bought some dinner on the way here, can I come in?" The woman waved the bag in her hand towards Li Muhan. The aroma of food came from inside. Li Muhan doesn't know this woman, but he has been accustomed to seeing all kinds of worldly things since childhood and can read a hint of information from the woman's eyes. Although she appeared to have a smile on her face, there was a certain murderous aura in the woman's eyes. Promoted. "I don't buy anything." Nevertheless, Li Muhan tentatively wanted to refuse the other party. It is evident that this woman has come prepared. She suddenly reached out her hand and tapped Li Muhan's forehead with her finger. Suddenly, Li Muhan felt his body as heavy as 1,000 pounds and fell to his knees with a thud. "It's already overtime, I really don't want to waste any more time." She bypassed Li Muhan's body and entered the room. "What situation?" Li Muhan vigorously turned his head and looked at the woman who walked into the room. "I saw the woman throw the bag directly onto the table and wave at Xia Yue standing at the door of the room. What are you waiting for? Come and sit down." She seemed to regard this place as her own home. "Let him go first." Xia Yue was not friendly to her, and her eyes, which had turned blood red, stared at the woman intently. "Don't stare at me like that. You know, if I eat soft or hard, call out, 'Sister,' and I'll let him go." The woman took out a pack of cigarettes from her pocket, lit one for herself, and leaned back in the chair, looking at Xia Yue calmly. "Sister. Li Muhan is foolish. Is Xia Yue so obedient? Is it still necessary to say that this woman is so powerful that even Xia Yue cannot confront her? Ah, well behaved. Let him go." Xia Yu's tone became cold, and the woman slowly took out a puff of smoke and raised her hand to snap her fingers. Li Muhan suddenly felt the heavy burden of 1,000 pounds on his body disappear completely in an instant. "First time meeting, let me introduce myself first." The cigarette butt was extinguished on the table, and the woman took out a business card from her suit pocket and placed it on the table. Li Muhan also understood that this woman was not an ordinary person. He walked up to Xia Yue and faced her like a formidable enemy. "My name is Lin Zhe, and I belong to the Huaxia National Special Management Bureau. I am specifically responsible for accommodating special groups that do not belong to humans." When it comes to special groups, Lin Zhe glanced at Xia Yue. "You should also know the true identity of the lady next to you. I am her guarantor, so I am really troubled by the big commotion she caused last night. If I don't handle it properly, I will have big trouble. I did yesterday's thing, it has nothing to do with her." Li Muhan stood in front of Xia Yue. Lin Zhe leaned back and carefully studied Li Muhan for a while, then a calm smile appeared on his face. "I know it's you. Initially, we weren't sure who the other target was, but as I walked into this apartment, I understood that there was a strong smell, a demonic smell, emanating from it." Xia Yue suddenly raised her hand, and 5 spikes made of fresh blood appeared out of thin air. These spikes surround Lin Zhe, and any movement of Xia Yu's fingers will penetrate the woman's body. Hiss. Lin Zhe took a breath. She couldn't help but shake her head and sigh as she looked at the blood spikes within reach. "I am your guarantor. Do you vampires repay each other like this? What do you want to do to him?" Xia Yue didn't put away those sharp spikes, and at this moment her hair began to turn white, as if she was about to start a fight. "Don't get excited, I'm just here to investigate. It doesn't really matter whether he's a demon or something. The most important thing is to ensure that he won't cause any trouble for our work." "He doesn't know," Xia Yue said firmly. "Cute, you don't have the final say. My colleague was busy collecting those mutilated corpses last night." Lin Zhe looked at Li Muhan. "Can you tell me, are you a native demon or a possessed human? At least according to my memory, I should be a human." Li Muhan said. Lin Zhe nodded, then stood up and walked to Li Muhan. Xia Yue was about to say something when Li Muhan raised his hand and shook his head at her. He could see that this woman named Lin Zhe had no ill intentions towards him and seemed to be kind to Xia Yue. Instead of letting them get into a conflict here, it would be better to first see what Lin Zhe wanted to do. Well behaved, really sensible. Seeing Li Muhan blocking Xia Yue's movements, Lin Zhe smiled slightly, then raised his hand, took off his gloves, and touched Li Muhan's chest. Li Muhan didn't make any movements, just quietly letting the other person feel his heartbeat. This power. Lin Zhe frowned slightly, which made Li Muhan nervously swallow a mouthful of saliva. But after a moment, Lin Zhe's face changed back to that indifferent smile. Tell me, what did that demon say to you? Are you still standing on the side of humans? He hardly said a word to me. Am I still considered human now? Lin Zhe looked into Li Muhan's eyes and said. Unfortunately, it's not worth it. In the end, Lin Zhe seemed tired of this confrontation, and she sighed and said. Enemy or friend, choose. At this moment, Li Muhan finally felt a sense of reality. The feeling of killing someone. But even so, he should still be in legitimate defense. No, his head was smashed by someone, which can be considered as the other party killing first. Why should he still be held accountable? Is it because I offended that young master surnamed Zhao? I know their family is very wealthy and powerful, but you can't either. Wheezing, before Li Muhan could finish speaking, Lin Zhe couldn't help but laugh. Who are you talking about? That person surnamed Zhao. Please, we don't care about the life or death of him and his nouveau riche father. The only one I like is you. When I'm here today, I only want to see you. I have nothing to do with that person surnamed Zhao. It's better to say that I'm a bit disappointed. Why didn't you directly kill him? This way, our colleagues will save a lot of trouble in the aftermath. Seeing that Li Muhan didn't speak, Lin Zhe said to himself, you have a powerful force in your body that you don't even understand, and this force needs guidance. Lin Zhe's smiling face suddenly made Li Muhan feel a little chilly in this moment. I don't need others to teach me how to do things. Li Muhan suppressed his inner astonishment. Although the woman in front of him was petite, the pressure he felt was immense. Of course, I can understand that you have a powerful force in your body. You can do whatever you want, but the premise is that you need to be able to correctly control it in your own hands, rather than becoming an uncontrollable monster every time you use power, right? Li Muhan fell silent. Indeed, he only vaguely remembered a little about last night. If you use power, you will be replaced by a monster, and this power cannot be said to be your own, and it itself is just a tool of the monster. Although what the woman in front of him said made him feel a bit uncomfortable, she was right in saying one thing. I need guidance and learning on my own. I don't intend to become anyone's puppet or slave, whether it's the demon in my body or what you call a special agency. Li Muhan said coldly, trying to figure out what the other party can do for him. Collins doesn't seem to have any plans to reveal more, at least for now. You don't need to be our slave, we can have a cooperative relationship. Of course, if you can kill me, everything I said before is nonsense. You can do whatever you want, and you don't need others to guide you. After all, you have power, and those who have power have all the say. Lin Zhe has been emphasizing strength to Li Muhan, and it seems that Li Muhan can understand the meaning behind her words. The implication is that you have strong power, but you don't know how to control it, and I, the Special Management Bureau behind me, can help you. Oh. Li Muhan smiled, with a feeling of concealing his true intentions. Is it enough to kill you? Is it that simple? Lin Zhe nodded and then slowly stood up. Of course, as long as you kill me, I promise the Special Administrative Bureau won't trouble you again, so do you want to give it a try now? Before Li Muhan could say the sentence and pass away, Lin Zhe's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light, just for a moment, but it made Li Muhan's back sweat profusely. By the way, I'm very strong. Seeing Li Muhan standing still without any movement, Lin Zhe regained his indifferent smile. She saw the confusion in Li Muhan's eyes and decided to give the young man some time. But the sharp thorns around her were still surrounding her, so Lin Zhe smiled and looked at Xia Yue. So, Xia Yue, are you going to argue with me? Xia Yue's body suddenly froze for a moment. Then she slowly closed her eyes, her hair returned to black, and those spikes gradually disappeared. Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. It can be said that the Special Management Bureau is the best destination for you now. Of course, this is just a suggestion, and we won't force you to join us. After finishing speaking, the woman wiped her hands with a tissue on the table and walked to the door. Think it over, it's not bad for you. After finishing speaking, he closed the door and left. Xia Yue and Li Muhan, who stayed in the room, didn't speak. Li Muhan sat on the chair, looking at his hands all the time. Thinking that these hands had taken 10 lives last night, he felt a chill of fear. Xia Yue originally wanted to comfort Li Muhan, but Li Muhan suddenly raised his head and gave her a silly smile. It's okay, when the boat reaches the bridge, it will naturally straighten out and there will always be a way. You're really a fool. In fact, Li Muhan's personality has always been like this, even if he is hit hard, he can still stand up. This is not because he had a wonderful childhood or was a good teacher and friend. On the contrary, his upbringing can be said to be as cruel as hell. Actually, until now, Li Muhan can also feel that the demons in the theater in his heart are watching him intently. They are happy to see Li Muhan become discouraged and depressed, so that they can get this body earlier. It's just that I may not be considered a human anymore, it's a bit regrettable. Li Muhan smiled and scratched his head. Xia Yue suddenly remembered something. She reached out and grabbed Li Muhan's wrist, then looked straight into his eyes. I'll show you something. Without waiting for Li Muhan to refute, Xia Yue grabbed his hand and walked to the window. Close your eyes. Ah. Why? Don't ask, close your eyes. Looking at Xia Yue's delicate and translucent eyes under the moonlight, Li Muhan was slightly moved. He felt his heart beating faster, and then he slowly closed his eyes. Suddenly, a sense of weightlessness struck, and Li Muhan felt Xia Yue pulling him out of the window. The world is silent, with only the howling wind coming to our ears, as if time is still in this moment. Li Muhan held Xia Yue's slightly cool hand, feeling calm in his heart. He even has the leisure to think about the temperature of vampires. You can open your eyes now. I don't know how long it took, maybe for a long time, maybe only a short moment, when Xia Yue's voice rang in Li Muhan's ear. Li Muhan braved the strong cold wind and slowly opened his eyes. He was stunned by the sight before him. At this moment, he was held by Xia Yue, and the two of them were floating above the entire city, with scattered lights and flowing vehicles at their feet. All the lights were under their feet, and in the distance, there was the sea that connected to the city port, emitting black waves at night. This is the first time Li Muhan has seen this city from this perspective. Born in an orphanage since childhood, he has never even gone out of Tianhai City, let alone taken a plane. Xia Yue didn't speak, just hugged him tightly to prevent him from falling. Li Muhan gradually understood Xia Yue's meaning. It is also interesting to examine this city or the world from another perspective. Just like what Xia Yue is currently doing, as a vampire, she is living in a human way. As a human, why can't Li Muhan live as a monster again? The scenery here is even better than the top floor of a high-end hotel, isn't it? Li Muhan was slightly taken aback, and then understood the meaning behind Xia Yue's words. She still remembered the last time she accidentally saw Gu Ruoxi's social circle, the top floor of a luxury hotel compared to here. It's not worth mentioning in an instant. Just treat it as a gift for you to keep me, of course I know it's not enough, but... Xia Yue smiled and looked at Li Muhan. Before she could finish speaking, Li Muhan had already tightly embraced her body. Thank you. Li Muhan tightly embraced Xia Yue's petite and somewhat cold body. Being a monster doesn't seem bad either.